Hey, what's up? Yin here, and today I'd like to talk about this TRN TA4. It is a 2DD plus 2BA IEM, and the retail price for this is $87 US. It's available on Linsol's website, so if you are interested, do check out the unaffiliated link in the description below. In this video, I'm going to go through the accessories, design, build quality, fit and comfort, my sound impression. I'll compare it with this sister IEM, and then I'll conclude with star rating for this IEM. Now, this video will have time chapters, so please feel free to skip around. Okay, so let's first start off with the specifications, which is is not on the box here, so let me just read them out to you from the website. The frequency range is 20 to 40,000 Hertz, impedance is 20 ohms, and the sensitivity is 105. Inside here there are two Knowles balance armatures and one 10mm dynamic driver, and the other is a 6mm dynamic driver that handles the mids and the highs. Well, not the highs, just the mids. And that's it for the specs. Now, as for packaging, inside this nice box here, you'll find the user guide, 3 types of ear tips. Now, the ear tips that stand out to me are the foam tips and the T-tips. Now, these T-tips are actually being sold separately on TRN's website or the AliExpress store, and it's actually a pretty good quality ear tip. It's some sort of an upgraded ear tip, and it's grippy. It's quite good quality in terms of the flange, and then on the inner core you can see the rubber is kind of stretchable. Yeah, so pretty good quality ear tip. It's more of a balanced ear tip, okay. And in terms of the foam tips is grippy on the outside. The surface of it, can feel that is kind of grippy, okay, rubbery. And not only that, it's actually pretty good. It's the memory foam is actually pretty responsive, and also it stays in its position for quite a long time. Okay, so yeah, pretty good ear tips, and also the stock tips, the usual stock tips from TRN. This is more of a bass boosted ear tip. Okay. And that's for ear tips. Next is the cable. Cable is upgraded cable, 4-core cable, and the good thing about this cable is that the tip is interchangeable. So this termination here, you can choose whether, and it comes in the box, you don't need to buy the tips separately. You can change the tips to either 3.5, 4.4 or 2.5. Okay, so these are the 3 different termination you can choose, especially if you have players that has got all those different funky termination or plugs. Then you can choose which one to use. If you want more power, of course, you can choose the balance output, which is the 2.5 or the 4.4, but if most people will have the 3.5. And to change this, the termination is very easy. All you need to do is unplug here. Okay, just pull. Okay, can you hear the sound? And then choose the termination of your choice, match up the arrows and the dot, and that's it. That's how simple it is. Just push it in and it's connected, and you can connect it to your source. Okay, you have your usual Y splitter and your chin slider. This chin slider is a bead kind of thing, and then ear hooks, right? So ear hooks are nice and soft. Okay, so cable wise, very good cable, good quality cable. Now let's talk about the IEM itself. Now this IEM is a semi-open back kind of design or infrastructure. So the drivers are in there. I'm not too sure you can see, but yeah, the drivers are in there. And this part here, the faceplate, is semi-open, which means yeah, you can release air pressure when you insert this IEM into your ear. At the same time, it gives you more openness in terms of the sound stage, which I'll talk about later. So it's a very good yeah, very good open back, some sort of open back IEM. As you can see from the perforation here, it's got some metal. I don't know what this is, just a design inside, but yeah, basically the sound can travel out here, and you can hear your ambience as well. Okay, then on the inner shell, you've got this typical shape, right? You got your fin here, your nozzles here. The made is made of brass, right? And I think there's no vents here, but the vent is actually at the back. Yeah, and the 2-pin connector is here, right? So very well, nice design, I would say, and very unique as well with this open back. Okay, now let's talk about fit and comfort. These fit my ear very well. Again, without a doubt, it goes into my ear, sits in my ear very well, doesn't give me any pain or discomfort, and I can wear this the entire day, so no issues on that. Now let's talk about seal. Seal wise, I would say in terms of from the nozzle, yes, but I still can hear my ambient sound, and it's because of this open back here. So it's not an entirely closed off type of listening experience. Okay. Right, so that's for the accessories and the fit and comfort. Let's talk about the sounds. Let me clear my table first. Alright, so first let's talk about drivability. Now these are not really easy to drive. You can drive them with your iPhone and your iPad and Android phone, but you need a good dongle, alright, a good dongle to push it. And I would say, you know, something like the TP20 will be good. Okay, this is a pretty powerful dongle. It does push the audio out, and also it does have volume independent volume control. So yeah, pretty good dongle to push the TA4. Now basically, if you were to connect it directly to your iPad or to your Android phone that has got 3.5 headphone jack, it does okay. It's just that it's not opening up the IEM to the fullest potential. Okay, so yeah, it's yeah, not easy to push, but still manageable. Now in terms of the gear matching, I would say gears that are warm, gears that are organic. Okay, so I would suggest things like iPods or the Sonys, right? These two they match really well. They're pretty old school, and the sound that they produce is also pretty rounded, analog, and I would say warm. So saws that are warm will sound good on this. Obviously warm sounding dongles will match this as well. I would say the TP20 will be good, as I mentioned earlier. Of course this FC6 is good. You know, all the gear that I suggest here, I'm not suggesting you to buy. I'm just using it as a reference due to the nature of the sound that these dongles produce, and I will use it as a reference to match it with the earphone. I'm not saying, or I'm not suggesting for you to go get one. You know, I would say from the sound signature that these dongles produce. Okay, so warm dongles. Okay, and well, M15 would be a bit too edgy and too sharp and too analytical for this TA4. Okay. Right, so that's for gear matching. Now let's talk about the tone and timbre for this. This is warm, as I mentioned. It's warm. It's pretty natural sounding. Okay, pretty natural sounding, and I wouldn't say fun. Okay, to a point, it's quite balanced. Kind of well, quite flat in terms of the sound signature, but pretty balanced. It's still a V shape or maybe a mild U shape, not a very V. Okay, so I would say, yeah, pretty balanced type of tuning. Now in terms of sound signature, let me bring up my graph. Alright, so this is the graph for the TA4, and as you can see, the so-called graph or the signal here is actually pretty balanced. Alright, pretty flat, so not much of a bass presence. At the same time, not much of the treble as well, except for the airiness of it. Right, so now let's first talk about the technicalities of this IEM, and this is where this IEM stands out. It's a very capable IEM with a lot of tech in it. It's got 2 dynamic drivers and 2 Knowles balanced armature in it, and with these drivers, 4 drivers in there on each side, the soundstage is so good. Right, and on top of that, this is a semi-open back kind of thing. The back part here is open, so soundstage is really good. The overall sound, what I hear is very open. It's got this very airy kind of feel when it comes to the soundstage. Very wide type of soundstage, to the side, to the top. Quite surround sound. The soundstage seems to come from outside to in. Okay, and goes pretty far. and overall layering and the sound separation on this is fantastic. Okay, so technical wise, this is a very capable IEM. It details, the retrieval is also very good, especially with all the separate sound. I can hear even for cymbals and the hi-hats, they are separated very clearly. Cymbals on this side, hi-hats on this side, you know, so that's how clearly defined the sound separation are. And I mean, it's 4 drivers per side, so very capable on that. Detailed retrieval is also very good, fantastic on that. I can pick up all the nuances of the my audio track that I'm listening to. So overall, very good. Resolution is also very good. It's above average when it comes to resolution. Okay, so to summarize, this is a very capable IEM in terms of technicalities. Okay, now let's talk about the sound signature. And this is more of a flat kind of sound signature. Not much emphasis on the bass, not much emphasis on the treble as well. I would say this is more close to balance, right? It's not really harmonish, but yeah, it's kind of balanced kind of tuning. Now, in terms of the sub bass is a bit rolled off. Okay, not much presence in the sub bass as well. Note weights a little bit on the, well, I would say warm side and a bit heavier, but not the heaviest, of course. There's no bass here. It's not a bass hit IEM. And basically it gives you that sufficient rumble, but the rumble actually is a pretty good quality rumble. It's not, in terms of quantity, it's not there, but in terms of quality, it's a very quality rumble, very well defined rumble as well. It's not really distorted as well. So yeah, very good rumble. Mid bass is a bit more present, it's more punchy, it's more well, I would say the slam is harder. Okay, so a pretty good mid bass, right? Mid bass actually stands out of all the frequencies here. I think the mid bass is the star of the show. It's more prominent, and actually this does bleed into the mids, well, it does bleed into the mids, which veils the instruments a little bit. Instruments may sound a little bit recessed, okay, which is the low mids here. Male vocals, they sound really good on this. Female vocals, they sound laid back. The note weight overall in terms of instruments and the vocals as well, they're a little bit on the heavier side. Okay, it's warm as well. It's a bit balanced, I would say that the overall listening experience is a bit balanced. The clarity is there, the details are there. Well, it's a bit difficult to say. I mean, even though the signature, the sound signature of this IEM looks recessed, but the clarity and the overall, well, detailedness of it is actually pretty good. Well, because of the technicalities, is very good on this. Okay, now in terms of the treble is dark. Okay, I find that the treble is dark. The gain is good, right? The overall bite, so like my guitars, cymbal strikes, hi-hats, they have got that good bite there. It's just that the energy is not the most energetic IEM. At the same time, it's also a little bit laid back. So I would say, I'm not saying it's lackluster, but it's actually a pretty good thing, because some people are pretty sensitive to the harshness of certain IEMs, and this one is definitely not harsh, but again, it's laid back, it's not energetic, and it's a dark treble as well, so very dark IEM. Most of my songs, they sound pretty muted in terms of the treble, and treble sounds like laid back lah. Basically, there's no brightness to it. It's not a very bright IEM. Now, in terms of the mid treble, over here you see that there's a spike here. This is actually due to my couplers artifact, so it's not sibilant. Definitely not, because overall presentation and the presence of the treble is kind of laid back. So if you were to look at it as a whole, the overall frequency itself is kind of a flat kind of tuning. It's just a bit elevated, but it's not the sibilant type of elevation. Okay, and as for the air, it's a very airy treble, and also contributing to it is the soundstage, the open back of this IEM, that gives it a bit more air and treble. The treble actually is, yeah, it's a very extended treble, I would say, and it rolls off pretty naturally. Okay. Alright, so that's for the overall sound signature of this TA4. Let's compare it with its sister IEM, and which is this. In fact, most of it, they have almost similar tuning. Okay, so this is actually very typical of TRN's tuning, which I have noticed in terms of a pattern. Most of the time, they are mid-bass focused. Okay, and yeah, and then they trail off pretty much similarly in terms of the treble, but over here the MT4 is a little bit brighter. I have it right here. Okay, so this is the MT4. Okay, and basically the MT4 compared to the TA4, this TA4 is so much better in terms of the soundstage, the resolution, the detail retrieval, and the sound separation, especially compared to the MP4. Okay, in terms of performance wise, this really outshines the MT4. Okay, but in terms of tuning, is a different matter, right? This has got a better extension in terms of the rumble, in terms of the sub bass. Also, it sounds brighter, it's more energetic, it's more bite when it comes to the treble. Gives a bit more enthusiasm in the song, if you get what I mean, and the overall treble, you know, it sounds nicer lah, more engaging. Whereas for the TA4, they sound a bit laid back, especially, you know, cymbal strikes, hi-hats, not as bitey as the MT4. Right, so that's my comparison with the MT4. So let's conclude. Basically, this TA4 is a very capable IEM in terms of technicalities. Alright, it's got good tech in there, good drivers in there. It's nose balanced armature, at the same time it's open back. So for this, my overall rating of this TA4 is 3 out of 5 stars. Okay, so this is a 3 out of 5 stars, and the reason why I'm giving it 3 out of 5 is obviously because of the technical performance of this IEM, and yeah, very good performer. In terms of price to performance, it definitely, you know, outperforms its price point with the amount of drivers and the quality of the drivers that is being packed inside this IEM. Alright, so yeah, I do recommend this TA4. Okay, so that's it for my review and my impression of this TRN TA4. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and also please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. So that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great day ahead, and I'll see you again in my next video. Cheers.